Let's go back to the 1950s, where a man could work a normal job, buy a house, find a wife who respects him, and start a family. This was the social contract and the promise of American society. Well, fast forward to today, and unemployment amongst men is on the rise. Women hate men, and vice versa. Starting a family is no longer a priority in the modern feminist society, and just fucking forget about buying a house altogether. So for us men, what the hell is the point? It's no wonder that so many of us young men feel lost and lonely. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly why men feel lost and lonely today, using real data comparing to what men used to have. In the 1950s, the default path for a man was very clear. Get a job, get married, buy a house, have kids. And statistically, this was very realistic. In the mid-1950s, 97 to 98% of men aged 25 to 54 were in the labor force. Today, that number is closer to 88 or 89%. That's a massive drop in how many men are working or even trying to work today. In 1949, 79% of American households were married couples. In 2024, only 47% of households are married. So for our grandparents, almost everyone was married. That was the normal. Now less than half of households are even married. And then there's housing costs. In 1950, the median home value was $7,000, which adjusted for inflation is like $79,000 to $88,000 today. The median family income back then was $3,300, which is a $40,000 annual salary in today's money. That put the home price to income ratio at roughly 2.2 to 1. So the cost of the average house was maybe 2 to 3 years of income for the average worker. Today, recent data shows that the median single-family home price is roughly 5 times the median household income nationally, and in some states it's much higher. Plus, the average cost to run that home, such as a mortgage, property taxes, and insurance, is now over $3,200 a month for recent home buyers. So the old promise of America, work a normal job, buy a house, start a family, that no longer exists for modern men. Now let's look at what it's like to be a guy in your 20s today. You're told to just work hard, but the participation rate amongst men has been falling for decades. A Federal Reserve analysis found that about 14% of millennial men aged 25 were out of the labor force, compared to just 7% of baby boomers at the same age. Another report shows that US-born men aged 16 to 64 who are not in the labor force has doubled from 11% to 22% in 2024. On top of that, inflation just keeps rising, eating away at your paycheck. From 2021 to today, wage growth has completely stagnated. In fact, it's even fallen behind inflation. Wage growth is growing at a negative 0.7%. So while inflation increases, your wages are actually going down. Also, median household income in the US is about $84,000, which is like the exact same as it was in 2019. So wages are not increasing at all. So to dumb it down, housing prices are way up, your wages are flat after inflation, and more men are just not working at all. So when a young guy looks at the economy and says, what system am I even a part of? What future am I building? Does that future even include me? That's not men whining, it's just math. The reality is that it's never been worse to be a man ever. Now let's add COVID on top of all of that. Lockdowns didn't just close schools and gyms. They collapsed a lot of the structure that young men had. I was fortunate enough that I was at least an upperclassman in college and reasonably developed. But imagine if you were a kid or you were in middle school or high school and you miss out on just 2 years of proper socialization. That will really fuck up the normal growth for a young guy. Research from 2017 to 2021 shows that depression diagnoses in children and young people increased by around 60% in that period, with anxiety also increasing. And those increases were significantly higher during the COVID years from 2020 to 2021. People are obviously going to have higher social anxiety when you can't socialize for 2 years. 40% of high school students reported persistent feelings of sadness or hopelessness. About 20% seriously considered suicide, and 1 in 10 actually attempted suicide. You don't get numbers like that without something being seriously wrong. Other studies have confirmed that during COVID, adolescent depression, anxiety, substance abuse, and social isolation all increased significantly, which is obvious, all while social connection and support completely collapsed. Think about what that means for young men. No sports, no organization, no structure, no socializing. And this was all replaced with endless doom scrolling, porn, video games, and social media. You take a generation that was already struggling for meaning and you lock them inside their room for a year. Of course, men came out more anxious, more depressed, more socially awkward, and less confident. And if that's you, by the way, you're not broken. Society failed you. You're reacting to your environment, but there's still ways to fix it. When life gets harder, escapism gets easier. Video games are the perfect example. According to the American Time Use Survey, teens from age 15 to 19 spend about 1.3 hours playing video games per day on school days. That's just an average and only on school days. For a huge chunk of guys, it's way more than that, especially during COVID or after COVID. For a lot of guys, it's multiple hours every night. Now, gaming isn't evil. I play plenty of video games myself, but everything has to have moderation. It can be fun, social, and you can even develop skills from it, but it needs moderation. If your brain is used to high dopamine stimulation from games, reality feels slow and boring. Studying, boring. Entry-level job, boring. Actually talking to a girl that doesn't have a pre-record dialogue above her head, terrifying. And honestly, a lot of that stuff just is boring anyway. And why work on leveling up your character in real life when you can work on leveling up a character in an interesting world while playing a video game? And so the same kind of thing is happening with porn, but it's way worse. A large US study showed that 91% of men have consumed porn in the last month. So if you're a man who doesn't watch porn regularly, you're in the minority. So what does porn actually do to you? Well, it hijacks your reward system. Your brain gets used to instant gratification with infinite novelty, zero risk, and zero human connection. Real women start to feel more demanding, more annoying, or more work than whatever you can just pull up on a screen in 5 seconds. And then your standards and expectations get distorted. You start expecting real intimacy to feel like a highlight reel or a movie. And honestly, porn makes you gay. So now we have a worse economy. Younger men are more depressed and anxious, playing hours of video games and watching porn. And we haven't even gotten to the modern dating scene yet. Not so good. Let's talk about relationships. Pew Research found that 3 in 10 adults say that they're single, not married, not living with a partner, and not in a committed relationship. But when you zoom in on young adults, the stats get way more brutal. Roughly 63% of men under 30 say they're single, compared to only 34% of women under 30 being single. So you have almost 2 young men single for every 1 young woman that is single. Some of this is just how people answer surveys, but it actually lines up to what at least I see culturally. Like on dating apps, a small percentage of men get all the matches, and modern women have drastically increased their standards. We've all heard this before. Every woman in the world seems to think that they deserve a man who is 6 feet tall, makes 6 figures a year, and has a six-pack. Unfortunately for them, that's only 0.3% of the male population. And that is including men in relationships, by the way. So let's be honest, if you're a man and you fit all those qualifications, you're probably already in a relationship. So really the number is more like 0. It gets even more hilarious because modern women have even less to offer, and yet their standards have gone through the roof. Make it make sense. Many women openly say things like, "I'd rather be alone than settle." And combine that with the previous stat, less than half of households are married couples now, versus almost 80% in the 1940s. In the 1950s, for men, marriage was the default. It was almost a given. Today, marriage and family are optional. And for a lot of people, it's delayed or even abandoned entirely. Now add in porn, hookup culture, and just genuine hate between the sexes on top of that. Men say women are entitled, hypergamous, and impossible to please. And women say men are immature, porn addicted, emotionally stunted, or not economically attractive. The result of all of this, everyone is angry and no one's happy. If you're a young guy, you're told, don't be a simp, but don't be toxic. Masculinity is a problem, but also be a high-value provider, emotionally intelligent, jacked, rich, funny, smart, and available. I mean, it's actually so fucking stupid. No wonder so many young men are just giving up. They don't want to play this game. So let's pull all of this together. Why are men so lost today? Well, men are lost today because the economic ladder is broken compared to the 1950s. Male labor force participation has fallen from nearly 100% to in the 80s. Real wages for many workers haven't kept pace since 2021. Housing costs went from about 2 to 3 times your income to 5 times your income. COVID devastated in-person relationships and socialization and increased depression. Overall, depression and anxiety surged amongst young people in general during the pandemic. Digital online addictions are replacing real-world connection and real-world progress. Teens and young people spend hours a day on screens every day. Around 80 to 90% of men regularly consume porn, which rewires their brain and makes it more difficult to experience intimacy. Modern dating and the family formation is completely broken. Most young men are single, and many young women are less and less interested in marriage and starting a family. The standard life path of job, marriage, house, kids is no longer probable or even possible. When you put all of this together, it's no wonder men feel lost. It's obvious. The social contract is broken and society failed men, and it replaced all of this with feminism. So ultimately, what should you do if you're a man? Here's the important part. You didn't create this system, but you do have to live in it. So what can we actually do? Well, to start, stop coping purely with escapism. I'm not saying never play video games or watch anything, but I'm saying if your main sources of pleasure are digital illusions like porn, video games, doom scrolling social media, you're feeding the exact machine that's keeping you stuck in place where you are now. Treat your mental health as serious as your physical health. They are closely tied together, by the way. If you're dealing with anxiety, depression, addiction, that doesn't make you weak. It makes you just a man living in a sick environment. Get help if you can, whether that's therapy, friends, family, or seeing a doctor. But honestly, a lot of this can be fixed just by working out, gaining confidence, making money, or pursuing wisdom or something meaningful. It all comes down to self-improvement. So build real-world confidence to escape this fake illusion. Lift weights, learn a high-value skill, learn a trade skill, start a side hustle, get better at communication. These are all forms of power. No matter how broken the system is, skill, discipline, and strength is still going to conquer. And reject this all or nothing mentality. Just because you can't buy a house at 25 doesn't mean that your future is doomed. Set smaller goals. Get out of debt, build savings, improve your income. Think in 5 to 10 years, not 5 to 10 minutes. Be the kind of man who could actually sustain a family, even if you don't have one yet. The culture might not reward this immediately, but true masculinity has always been about responsibility, sacrifice, and strength. You don't need society's permission to embody that as a man. And while life sucks today for the majority of men, if you're in the top 10% of men, it's still fucking awesome. So strive hard to be in the top 10% of men, and you'll be all right.